From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Wow, you are looking good today. Ah, man, what a treat to be in your ear. Even your ears are clean. I am Sven Erlandson, the host of the Badass Counseling Show podcast. It is a delight to be the host. It is a delight to be here with you, whether you are checking in from Mohawk Valley, New York, or checking in from the 906. It's good to have you here. If you're checking in from McMinn Valley, Oregon, or Mankato, Minnesota, from Perth, Australia, to Perham, it is lovely to have you here. We have so many listeners in from all around the world, from the UK to Italy, South Africa, all over, and we're just honored to be here. I am joined in studio, as per usual, with the lovely KC over in the booth, easily the smartest person in this operation, and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, who knows I'm kidding. He's really the smartest person in this operation.
You got that wrong. First thing you've ever said wrong.
Rob, what do you say today, my man?
You know, we're recording this episode sort of the beginning of fall, and it's like leaves are changing. It's lovely, and there's a little chill in the air. But as I've said before, it's always bright and sunny in here with you, my friend.
I have fun, too. In fact, today, when I knew we were going to be taping, I thought, we're going to go have some fun today. Rob and I have a lot of fun, and I love it when Casey comes out of the booth and sits with us, because it's always a treat to have her out here in the mix as well. But it's just us, folks. So I am here to take your questions. So go ahead and start firing them at me. And I've got a comment here from someone that is not a question, but I'm going to call it out. It's from Jacqueline on Facebook. And she says, I went to my first Al-Anon meeting. And I just want to say, good for you, Jacqueline. That's the first step, man. It's just one foot in front of the other, one step after the next. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So I applaud you for that first step and keep it going, Jacqueline. That's great. That's the step to healing. Next, from over on TikTok, I've got a question here from Tom W. How do I win back the trust of my partner when they don't trust any progress I make? Okay. The way you win back the trust, earn the trust from someone whose trust you have shattered, is that each day you work to win back their trust. That's it. It's not all the convincing and all the yammering and all the promises and see what I'm doing now, see I'm doing better. It's almost, honestly, it's like, I had a coach or two in sports who would say, just shut up and do the work. And when I was an NCAA strength coach, I'd tell my athletes, when you're in my gym, just shut the fuck up and do the work. First rule of my gym, just shut the fuck up and do the work. That's it. In all honesty, you want to win someone's trust, shut up and do the work. And you have to do it every day. Because the truth is, and it's funny, I just made a video on this today. And you didn't say whether you cheated or what caused you to breach the trust, Tom. Okay, but first of all, I want to say I admire you for doing the work to win the trust. That's good, Tom. That's really good. Okay, here's the thing. Someone who has had the trust breach, someone has breached my trust in this relationship. So they've created a breach in the relationship, a chasm. And if they're wanting to repair the chasm, I get people coming to me saying, well, Sven, how do I know if they've actually changed? How do I know if they're going to cheat again? And some people say, well, once a cheater, always a cheater. They're going to cheat again and so on and so forth. I don't say that because I know there are people who do heal, who do see the wrong of their ways and who do the work to change. All right. The question that you got to be asking yourself, though, is are you doing the deep inner work, Tom? It's not just, gee, you've changed your behavior. Because as you guys have heard me say before, if you're just changing the behaviors up here on the surface, trying to change the behaviors never changes behaviors long term. You have to go down to the core beliefs driving those behaviors that then filter up and drive the behaviors. Until you change the core beliefs, there'll be no long-term change in behaviors. You'll always revert back. So you need to be doing the work. And of course, what I recommend for that is start with my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. It'll kick your fucking ass. And it'll change your life if you have the balls to do the work. But you got to do the work. But here's the thing, Tom. So what I tell people when they say, how do I know if my partner's actually changed? I say the truth is you will never definitively know. You have to think of it like an alcoholic thinks of recovery from alcoholism. That why do they give alcoholics after 1 year of sobriety, why do they give them a coin? 1 year or your 5-year coin or your 10-year coin, because it's a big fucking deal. Because for 365 individual days, you managed to say no to the drink. And anybody who is an alcoholic or has been an alcoholic or is in recovery knows how hard each day is. When someone has breached trust in a relationship, each day is hard. There's never a guarantee that they won't do it again. Never, ever a guarantee. You will never, ever know definitively. There is, just as there is always the chance that the alcoholic will take the bottle again. The chance is always there, forever. There is always the chance that that person will breach the trust again. All that person can do, all you can do, Tom, is each day wake up and work to win the trust. That's all you can do. And if they choose to treat you with distrust, and if they choose to never trust you, that's their choice. You can't force someone to do anything. And here's the really ugly part of breach of trust in relationships. The really ugly part that a lot of people don't like to look at is I always strive to protect the person who's been hurt, right? If someone who did the hurting actually wants to heal, I'm happy to go in deep and help them heal. But I always say to the person who's doing the work to heal or who breached the trust, who's trying to win it back, you don't have to wait around forever. Tom, if you're doing everything you can to win your partner's trust back and they are not giving it, or they're not changing, or they're keeping you down, or if they're just making you feel yucky in the relationship. I know that sounds like a silly word, but it's functional. And they insist on keep doing it. You don't have to stick around. The day can come where you walk away. That's your choice too. All right. Next question. Have you got one there, Rob?
Yes, I do, Sven. I have one on YouTube, and it's Ashley who asks how to not feel guilty for leaving a partner who is in active addiction. Leave with no conversation, or how should I go about it? I'm confused.
Well, you're asking two questions there, Ashley. You're asking, how do I go about it? But then you're asking, how do I not feel guilty? No, the goal isn't to not feel guilty, Ashley. The goal is to, if you feel guilty, allow yourself to feel guilty. Journal your feelings out or talk to your therapist, or write a letter to your partner, but begin to, that you don't send to your partner, by the way, or give to your partner or your ex, soon to be ex. But you have to welcome all of your feelings of guilt. Because those, you led with the mention of the guilt, and then you followed it with, how do I execute this? Okay. So that says to me, the guilt is the higher thing, the bigger thing that's keeping you from actually doing it. So welcome up all the feelings, journal them out of you. Keep journaling. Of course you feel guilty. You feel guilty because at some point in your life, you were conditioned to believe that the other person's feelings mattered more than you did, or you should always take their feelings into account, and they should supersede your feelings. And so for once in your lifetime, you have to allow your feelings and to welcome those feelings of guilt and flush them out and flush them out and flush them out. And the more you do that, the easier it'll be to execute, to actually make this happen. So then how do you execute? Just tell the truth. Stand up boldly, strongly, and tell your truth, and don't back down. But you will back down if you don't flush those feelings of guilt out of you. Next question. What if I don't like the way my daughter-in-law talks to my son? Oh boy, this is always a fun one. In-law stuff. I'm going to answer it a couple of ways. One, say something. If you want to say something on one hand. And if you want to say something to her, say it calmly, coolly, boldly, strongly. But, the more you're a dick to her, the more she's going to likely respond by being a dick back to you. Okay? The more you try to tell her what to do, what would you do if your mother-in-law or your father-in-law tried to tell you what to do? Inside of you, you might be thinking, go fuck yourself. She might think, go fuck yourself. And then you have the potential to drive a wedge between your son and you, because at this point in your son's life, who do you think your son is more loyal to? Now, you may want the answer to be you, but the truth is it's probably going to be her, especially if they're building a family together or already have a family together. More importantly, if your son is being spoken to poorly by his wife, that indicates to me he's probably afraid of her, which means he's more afraid of her than he is afraid of you. And if he's afraid of her, guess what he's going to do if he has to pick between her and you? He's going to pick her. Why? Because he's afraid of her. So, Patty, if you want to say something, say something. I don't necessarily see it ending well. Do you really think she's going to change? Because what leverage do you have to get her to change? But more importantly, is your bigger issue with her or your bigger issue with your son that he's allowing himself to be spoken to this way? Isn't that the greater problem? And so what does it say that you have a son who allows himself to be spoken to this way? Why would he be conditioned to allow himself to speak this way? So now we're getting down into it. And I'm not saying it to be a dick. I'm just asking a question. Where along the line was your son conditioned to believe that it's okay for someone to speak to me this way? Did you and or your son's father, did you condition your son to be spoken to this way? Because this didn't just come out of the fucking blue. This didn't just fucking magically happen. All of a sudden, if he's all his whole life insisted that people treat me respectfully, and now all of a sudden he's letting someone treat him disrespectfully, it doesn't make sense. It would be out of character, right? So where the hell is this coming from? But you're asking a very practical question. What if I don't like the way my son or my daughter-in-law talks to my son? Some people would say, keep your nose out of it. It's not your business. Because in a way, you're mothering your son. You're fundamental. If you do stick your nose, and I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, it's your choice. Do what you want. But if you do stick your nose in, it could be argued you are fundamentally undermining your son. How? Because you're treating him like he's a child, that he still needs his mommy to protect him. And you're confirming that to his wife. You are fundamentally conveying to her, my son needs his mommy to protect him. Now, maybe the truth is your son does need his mommy to protect him. Okay? But what is the likelihood that she is going to change? I'm willing to bet the likelihood is, in fact, that she's going to be fucking offended and she's going to, in her own way, whether in the moment or over time, tell you to go fuck yourself. And she may do it by alienating your son from you. It's a tricky little thing, isn't it? And on one hand, there's no right or wrong answer, but I understand. I truly understand the pain that you're feeling in seeing your son being treated this way. But yeah, you've got a tough decision to make. And what I would encourage you to do first, though, is journal out all of your feelings or talk with your therapist or your clergy person about all the feelings that are going on inside of you, because it's when we are most pregnant with emotions that we make our worst decisions in life. And maybe your worst decision in this case is being silent. Maybe the worst decision is saying something. But the more you flush out your own feelings, because I'm willing to bet you've got strong emotional charges regarding this. And the more you get those out, the clearer you'll be in your thinking and in your decision making. Next question. How do I become more selfish as a people pleaser? I feel like what I may think or feel isn't a priority. First of all, you need to begin to realize that your life definition is not people pleaser. That may be who you have been, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is your identity, because as long as you identify as a people pleaser, then doing something that is, to use your word, selfish or just is good to you is going to be out of character. So you have to begin to change your definition of yourself from, no, I'm just a people pleaser, to I'm an integrated person that at times does please others and at times pleases myself. But you ask the question, how do I become more selfish as a people pleaser? You have to begin to go in deep inside and identify those messages inside of you that are teaching you that your voice doesn't matter. And those voices always go way back to childhood. And I wrote a book to literally walk you through that process. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. You can get it, audiobook, ebook, paperback, on my website, badasscounseling.com. It's in Spanish. There's a workbook. But this will take you deep to identify those voices and where they came from. And by identifying them, you'll then begin to be able to root those out of you. Because again, you can't just change your behavior, people. You have to change the core beliefs driving those behaviors, or those behaviors will never change long term. Next question. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
This one's on YouTube from Ali, who says, how can I show my brother that I'm here for him? His girlfriend is very manipulative and controlling. They have a baby together, and she uses the baby to get what she wants, but she's also said it might not be his. He thinks that she's the only one who's here for him, but she keeps isolating him more and more from family and friends.
Your brother is terrified. Your brother is terrified. He's terrified. If he doesn't even know he's the father, and if she's manipulating him, he's allowing her male or female, if in this case he happens to be male, which in a way makes the point even stronger, he is allowing her to manipulate him. He's not aware of it, but he's terrified. Terrified of not having her, terrified of not feeling loved. And so she's pushing him around and he's allowing it because he's afraid. So if you really want to help your brother, go to him, and rather than trying to change his behavior or tell him what to do, start by beginning to ask him, hey, what's going on? What are you afraid of in this sort of thing? Rob, it looks like you have a comment.
Yeah, he does. He says, you'll like this, Sven. She's just like my mom.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Right. So your brother's wife is just like your mom, right? And that's where your brother was conditioned.
Girlfriend, but yeah.
Right, girlfriend, and they have a child. So your brother and his girlfriend have a child, and she's just like mom, right? And so, this is where he learned the pattern, and he's afraid of her, and he's probably been afraid of your mom, and he's still probably to this day wanting something from your mom, and that's approval of his worth, and now he's trying to get that through his wife, and he's terrified that if he doesn't have her approval, or that he's terrified to stand up to her, because he's been terrified to stand up to your mom the whole time. So what you can do if you really want to be a loving hand towards him is just go and listen and say, hey, what are you struggling with? What's going on? How are you? And listen, and then ask a follow-up question. But the minute you come in with an agenda, well, you should this, or, well, she's a bitch and she's manipulating, then people shut down. Whether or not even they see it as true is irrelevant, because they just see you as you are one more person confirming that their own inner voice and feelings and needs are invalid. You're coming in with your fucking agenda. Set your agenda. If you genuinely want to help your brother, be there for him and just fucking listen. And ask questions, and what are you struggling with? And that must be hard, because then he'll start to trust you. And then the more someone trusts you, the less work you have to do, because they'll open up like a flower, gently and quietly. But they'll open up and they'll trust you because he has those feelings inside of him. But he doesn't have anybody he can fucking tell, because everyone's trying to fucking change him or tell them their agenda for his life. You want to be a loving presence in your brother's life? Just listen, just love him without agenda. And this goes for children too. Children want to be heard, not fixed. It's true of adults. And why do we go to therapists? Why do we go to a clergy person? Why do we go talk to our best friend who's a good listener? Because it feels good to get it out of us. And very often, the more we just talk about it and flush it out and talk about what we're feeling and our concerns, and I feel stuck or I feel overwhelmed, the more we get it out and flush it out, the more our own decisions sort of become clear. It's almost like you don't have to do the work. It's like almost all you have to do sometimes is just let the person talk about it and flush and ask some good follow-up questions. Well, how does that feel? That must be scary. Wow. What's the hardest part? Or why do you think that is? What's really going on inside of you? Ask some questions, and the more they flush it out, the more they will over time begin to see it. Perhaps the very truth that you wish they would do right now. Much more to come right after this short break.
I've been doing some real healing work in my life, and I mean hardcore. But I've been craving something new to level up. A friend of mine told me about this badass counselor. I gotta admit, I rolled my eyes. Then I watched a few of his videos, and yes, this is the guy. I went and got his audiobook, Badass Wisdom. Holy shit. Absolute ass-kicking, inspiring, deep, powerful shit, period. If you don't get this book, you're making a huge mistake. So do you got the guts to go big with your self-care? Go to badasscounseling.com, get the book Badass Wisdom now.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
All right, we are back. And here we go. I've got two questions queued up, and this one is from Debbie on Facebook. I was recently out with a boyfriend at a venue. I am 60 years old. The young lady in her 20s sitting next to him said to him, "Hey, tell your girlfriend that I think she looks really pretty." Well, I saw her keep saying this to him, and she kept saying, "Tell her," but he wouldn't. I finally got it out of him what she wanted me to know. My boyfriend kept telling me, "Forget it. It's not important." Seriously? Seriously? And so now it's her saying, "Seriously?" curious what your thoughts are on this, Sven. I'm not necessarily an ego person, but I'm surprised at his response. Yeah, that's a weird one. First of all, odd. I mean, lovely that 20-year-old girl sitting next to her, sitting next to your boyfriend or your date, said those things, that you look really pretty, and he wouldn't. And I finally got it out of him what she wanted me to know. My boyfriend kept telling me, forget it, it's not important. So he didn't want you to he didn't want to pass on a compliment to you being given by a stranger. What's fascinating to me is, why didn't the girl just say it to you? But obviously even more fascinating, he didn't want to say it. So he didn't want to give you a compliment about your attractiveness. And something sticks out for you about that. And I'm willing to bet that what sticks out for you is it just doesn't feel good, does it? That here's this compliment that you were rightly entitled to, and he didn't want to pass it along. And so he was withholding a good thing from you. Regardless of his reason, he was withholding something good, a gift. It's almost as if someone said, hey, give this $20 bill to your girlfriend. And he said, no, I'll just stick it in my pocket. I don't want her to have it. He doesn't want you to feel good in that moment. What possible reason could there be? Doesn't want you to inflate your ego, doesn't want you to feel good. See, to me, if I'm in that situation, I'm out on a date and I'm with a lovely woman sitting next to me, and I've got some young person on the other side saying, hey, tell your girlfriend, she looks really beautiful. I turn to my girlfriend, I say, hey, listen to this. This young gal says you're really beautiful. How cool is that? Young lady, that is really sweet of you, I would say. And then my date would likely say, oh, thank you, honey. That's really kind of you. Why would you not want to make someone else feel good? This is someone who was given a compliment to hand on to you, and they chose to withhold it, and you had to drag it out of them. Honestly, fuck that. Why would you? I'm willing, and of course it didn't feel good. You wouldn't be asking that question right now unless it didn't feel good. So you're with someone who doesn't want you to feel good when they have such a golden opportunity just handed to them. It's not like he even had to believe it or not himself. He just didn't fucking say it. It's just like, this guy's a dick. Just, what do I think of that? I think he's a dick. It's just rude. All right, next question. This is from L. McGiggles on TikTok. She says, should I force my son, who is a senior in high school, to go to counseling? He won't talk about anything. I am very passionate about this issue, and this is one I get a lot, because a lot of young people don't want to talk about their stuff, but the parent knows they're going through trauma. Maybe there was a divorce in the family. If a favorite grandparent passed away. Maybe, they could get bullied at school or whatever it is. And as we all know, if you've had teenagers, you know that they're not always the most receptive to parental nudges and that sort of thing. But you say, should I force my son, who is a senior in high school, to go to counseling? He won't talk about anything. And some people would say, no, it's his business and so on and so forth. And I say, sorry. If your son had a broken leg, would you require him? And he said, no, I'm going to let it heal. Jesus is going to heal it, or something like that. Or I just believe in self-healing and I'm going to put roots and herbs on it all by myself because I read about it in a book. You'd be like, the fuck in the car. We're going to the fucking doctor's office. All right, we're going to the emergency room. There would be no question. Isn't it fascinating that when it comes to soul health, mental health, we make it optional for a kid? Nope. No way. If you're my kid under my roof, no fucking way. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because I've learned something over the years. The pain caused to the soul is infinitely more insidious than the pain caused to the body. And as long as you allow that kid to keep that shit locked down, he will continue to lock it down. And someday he's going to end up in my office paying a pretty penny for counseling. And I'm going to say, what did you really want back then? And we're going to dig deep. And if he doesn't have the words for it, I'm going to find the words. And I'm going to say, is it possible what you really wanted was somebody to help you because you didn't know what was best for you? You were a snot-nosed, dumb fucking kid. And your son, I'm sure he's a lovely kid, but he's a snot-nosed kid. He doesn't know his ass from his elbow. He doesn't know what's in his best interest. And he sure as shit doesn't know what's in his own long-term mental health best interest and soul health best interest. Get his ass into a counselor as long as he's underage, because you got a shot here, Mom. You got a shot. to help that kid heal. And even if he doesn't say a damn word the entire time, fine. Take him back again and again. Let the pros do what the pros do. Find yourself a good one, a good therapist who works with teens, who has a good reputation. Get him in there because you got a shot. Even if he hates you for it, fine, let him hate you for it. But you got a shot. You want to know why? Because kids like that keep that shit locked down then for another decade, 2 decades, and it wreaks so much havoc on their lives. Get them in there. All right.
When they win, they lose, right, Sven?
And what do you mean by that, though, Rob?
Well, my example is when I was about 5 or 6, I went running into the kitchen and I just tripped and I hit my head on the sharp corner of the kitchen table, opened up a gash under my right eye, which I still have the scar to show for it all these years later because I didn't want to go to the hospital. And my parents said, well, okay.
Oh, my.
That was a mistake.
Oh, my.
So parents, do the right thing.
Right.
All right?
Right. Your kid, when it comes to their health, they don't know best. You just don't. And I'm telling you, when it comes to soul health, mental health, they don't. Get them in, get them the help. And even if when he turns 18, he quits and never goes back, fine. You at least know you did what you could. You imposed your values when it came to their health, and that's part of your responsibility as a kid. It's not just giving them, we empower our kids to make their own decisions, but there are times where we step in and say, I'm grabbing you by the scruff of the neck. This is in your own best interest in your health. All right. Next question.
I got one here if you want, or you have one.
Go ahead, Rob.
All right, this is interesting. It's from Teddy on YouTube. Hey guys, what should you do if you begin acting on the anger you've revealed from all the note-taking and personal work? I took my anger out on my parents. No harm, but honestly, cops were involved.
All right. And that tells me, honestly, and so was the question basically, what should you do?
Yeah, what should you do if you begin acting on the anger that comes out with your work?
Yeah, it tells me you're not going deep enough. It tells me there's deeper anger. There's fucking rage, maybe even hatred, but you're not going deep enough. Because if it's coming out, I tell this to people as well when they have, let's say, an adult kid in their late 20s, early 30s, or it can be any age, who's always pissy, always bitchy, always sniping back about this or that, or why we do that, or da-da-da. In other words, they're always up here on the surface with this bitchiness. And it's because they're not going down to the real shit. Either they don't know that there's real shit down there, or they're afraid to go down to the really deep stuff, or who knows what. Or they're afraid to bring it up because they fear you'll blow it off or whatever. In this case, first of all, I applaud you for going into your anger and stirring up all the stuff regarding your parents, but it's not coming out of you. The level that you have gone to and the stuff that you have unearthed, you're not purging it out enough. Using your journaling, using writing letters that you don't send, but also some of the other techniques I teach in the book. There's a hole in my love cup for getting that out. The mere fact that you're unleashing it on your parents says it's not coming out of you, but also I'm willing to bet there's something down there even deeper that you haven't touched yet, and that is still there. It's like being fed by this wellspring of more rage inside of you. So you need to keep flushing it out, and you need to go deeper because there's something else down there. All right, next question. As I heal, my 30-year-old son, who can be very selfish, tells me to get over it. You don't tell me what he's telling you to get over. As I heal, my 30-year-old son, who can be very selfish, tells me to get over it. Is it that he's wanting you to get over the apologies you're offering him, or that you need to get over this healing stuff? If you've got somebody toxic in your life, you have every right to stand up to them. And stand up and say, what are you referring to? My question to you is, are you afraid of your son? Are you afraid of him? What are you most afraid of him saying to you? What is the one phrase you most fear your son saying to you? Because it sounds like if you're allowing your son to talk to you this way, it sounds like you're afraid to stand up, potentially. Maybe not. And what is it you most fear him saying to you? What is it he says to you that hurts you? And at what point do you begin to stand up and say, in all this healing work, and say, it's not okay for you to treat me this way? And then the question might be, have you done everything in your power to heal not just your relationship with your son, but to heal your son of any past pains that you have caused him, or even present ones that you are causing him? All right, next question. My mother has always treated me as a co-parent and not her child. I don't think she can change. The mere fact that you don't think she can change, you say that, Caitlin, says you want her to change. And I'm betting you want me, or you want her to treat you like your child, your adult child. You're wanting her to be a parent and not be your buddy or the co-parent, or it almost implies that you're expected to parent her and be responsible for her. And you say, I don't think she can change. Well, can change? What makes you think it's a can, like it's an ability? No, she doesn't want to. Anybody can change if they do the work to do it. You're saying she doesn't want to. Then there's really no pain point. There's no incentive for her to change. She's in the catbird seat. She doesn't have to change. As long as you don't change, what's the incentive for her to change? Why don't you stop being the co-parent? Why don't you stop parenting her? See, you're facilitating her to continue this way because you are continuing to act like the co-parent. Why don't you simply refuse to meet her needs? But I'm willing to bet you're terrified to do that. You want to know why? Because you still want something from mom. You're still wanting her to be the parent. You're still wanting her to be the deliverer of love to you. You're still wanting her to bring you love, which is a confirmation of your worth, which is a confirmation that you matter as her child, because then you would finally feel like you are loved rather than you're responsible for taking care of her. You've been wanting her whole life, your whole life, to treat you like you are loved and like you matter and you are her child. Instead, she's leaning on you. And by leaning on you to be her parent and to take care of her, she's saying you don't matter. Who you are, your worth is only valuable insofar as it serves me. And so that's a negation of your worth. You just exist to serve me. And so you will stay stuck in this loop of taking care of your mother and wanting her to change, wanting her to change, wanting her to change. You will stay stuck in this loop as long as you believe that she is the only person that has the power to confirm your worth. And as long as you still believe that's possible and keep holding on for that to happen, she will basically own you. She owns you because she's getting what she wants and you're not getting what you want. And until you're ready to walk away and say, I'm never going to get that met and I need to go on and live my life, until you do that, you are still staying stuck in this loop. And once you do actually step out and begin to go and live your life, that is a confirmation of your own worth. You are confirming it to yourself. And that is a massive step. But you have to reach the point where your pain of waiting on her and her negating your worth has gotten so great that you're finally ready to move on. All right, next question. All right. So we're back to Crystal Shaw. She had said, as I heal, my 30-year-old son, who can be very selfish, tells me to get over it. And she says that what he's telling her to get over is her childhood trauma. And I would very sternly say to a child saying that, young man, that is disrespectful what you are saying. You don't say that to another person. Get over your childhood trauma. And the simple fact that your son, if I'm being very, very honest with you, Crystal, the fact that your son is saying this indicates to me he has a lot of pain inside of him, and likely caused by you and by his father, of his needs not being met. Now, it could be that he's saying, get over it so that you can finally meet my needs. And no doubt he can be selfish, but why is someone selfish? Because they're taking something from themselves, for themselves. Why are they taking something for themselves? Because other people aren't giving for them. So what I would encourage you to do, Crystal, and I don't know your situation with regard to your son, except that you've said he's telling you to get over your trauma, and you're saying you're doing your own healing and trying to heal your trauma, and you say he's very selfish. He's wanting his needs met, and he's the kid. Heal yourself and simultaneously go and atone to him. Go and atone to him. And what I would recommend actually is go and watch the video that I posted. I believe it was the December 24th of 2023. It may have been the 25th. And it's a repost, but it's a good video. And the title of it is something like the 7 things you can do to help your adult child heal. And go through there and do the steps in that. I'm sitting outside in that video. I've got like a bomber jacket. There's snow on the ground around me. And that's December 24th or 25th of 2023. Go back and watch that video. Do the steps in that video because you need to go back and atone with your son. It's not enough to be accusing him. He's needing something from you. But you also don't have to allow anyone to treat you that way and say, oh, get over it. That's rude. But the boy is hurting. He's longing for something. He's wanting something from you. And it's healing. It's love. It's precisely what I was talking about with the other guest on the show. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, from Sherry Joe and Alan, and I think this is mostly from Sherry Joe. How do I deal with triggers in a more constructive way? My husband of 26 years had an affair with a coworker 15 years younger than me. We're trying to make it work, but the triggers are horrific.
That's a great question. It's always important to remember with triggers, the problem in life isn't the triggers. Triggers are something outside of me that's happening that causes me to get all jacked up inside and worked up and afraid and anxious and sad and depressed and angry and all those things, okay? Any of those feelings, all of those feelings, whichever it is. The trigger going on outside of me isn't the problem. Sherry Joe, you may know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the trigger isn't the problem per se. The problem is that fundamentally the trigger or the switch, it's like you got dynamite inside of you. You have a bunch of dynamite inside of you, sticks of dynamite. And we can spend our lives trying to, and that dynamite is all of your past pain, specifically of what your partner did. Okay. And that's like dynamite. It's all the pain inside of you and the anger and the rage and the sadness and the misery and the feelings of betrayal and disappointment and all the mixture of feelings that you still have inside of you, those memories that have those emotional charges attached to them, the emotional charges of disappointment, anger, betrayal, all that. And until you get all of those emotional charges out of you, those are like sticks of dynamite inside of you. And those things that you say trigger you are like a match. It's like a lighter. And it's lighting that stick of dynamite and stuff's blowing up inside of you. So you can spend your life avoiding triggers, but the bottom line is you're still a sort of a ticking time bomb. You can spend your life avoiding anything that looks like a match or a lighter, but the bottom line is you still have the dynamite inside of you. So what you have to do is you have to do the deep and hard inner work of going inside of you and beginning to decharge those memories. The truth is, if you have a partner who treats you that way, you would naturally, the natural response to that would be disappointment, hatred, rage, anger, immense sadness, immense distrust, immense feeling of destabilized, immense everything. And every single one of those feelings has to be addressed. You have to welcome it up and facilitate its exit by talking it out with your therapist, or as I recommend to people, do the work on your own. Get a fucking pad of paper and a pen and start journaling about all that shit. Start writing it out. And I teach some other tools in my book. There's a hole in my love cup. Tools for flushing all of that out. All right? And you have to. If you say, oh, we're trying to make it work, you won't be able to make it work. You will not be able to make it work unless you get all of that stuff out of you. And you will not be able to make it work unless your husband goes into therapy to drill down to what the real roots of his engaging in this action is. Now, the truth is, there aren't a lot of therapists out there who specialize in cheating. And some say they do, but they actually don't. All right? I've literally written books. I have cheated, I have been cheated on, and I have been the co-cheater with someone who is cheating on a spouse multiple times in sort of decades earlier in my life. And I wrote a book on it. The book's out of print now, but that's not the point. What your husband needs to heal, he needs to go deep inside himself to find out. Because it wasn't, I'm dissatisfied in my marriage. That's a bullshit answer. It wasn't, gee, it just happened. That's a bullshit answer. All right? It's because of deeper shit inside of himself. Just tell him to get the fucking book and do the book. There's a hole in my love cup. It will kick his fucking ass if he has the balls to do it. And we'll see if he actually has the balls to do it. But you yourself, regarding your triggers, you have to go inside. You should actually be fucking reading the book too, because the bottom line is you've got so much shit inside of you. And until that book comes out, until all that comes out of you, you guys are fucked. I mean, you can try all you want, but neither of you is addressing the real deeper issue. And cheating is never the surface shit that people say it is. It's always something generally that predates the relationship, believe that or not, but it's true. All right. I've got a question here from Stephanie. Please help. I have huge trust issues. I don't trust anyone. How can I help myself trust again? You trust again not by not trying to trust again. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? You trust again by going into what the fears are that are driving the distrust. See, distrust is fear. Distrust is fear because you fear something happening. And so you're not going to open up. Trust means to open up. It means to allow myself to connect to someone or to a path, or to open up to, okay, I'm willing to trust this investment of my money, or I'm willing to trust this person who says they'll be good to me. And if you're not trusting, you're closed down, you're living in fear. So what you have to do, this has to be an exploration of your own fears. And your own fears that you have, fear is caused by past pain, present pain, or potential future pain. And if you're not trusting, you're afraid of the potential future pain, but that's being caused by past pains that you've had and past messages that you've gotten from people, either, from people you've been in relationships about yourself, but also likely from your parents about what the world is like. But no, you've got so much fucking pain inside of you that you're terrified of getting hurt again. And as I was just telling the person about the cheating spouse, until you get all that out of you, you won't trust. So you've got to go into, in your journaling and in your self-work and your self-help work, you've got to be looking at the questions of, what am I really afraid of in this? And you need to be journaling that up and answering that question. Well, I'm afraid of blah, blah, blah. Where does this come from? Well, I had this experience. And treat your journal like it's your best friend. Treat your journal like you're talking to me, or like you're talking to your therapist, and flush out your answers. Well, where is this coming from? Well, why do I feel that way? Well, how did it feel when that person hurt me? Well, it hurt, and I'm so fucking angry, and I'm sad about this and that, sad about that. You have to purge all of this stuff out of you, because you've got so much fear, which is caused by past pain and past messages you've been taught about yourself. And until that stuff comes out, you ain't never going to be healed. Next question. I'm going to take just like 2 or 3 more, and then we're going to call it a night. What have you guys got for me here?
From YouTube, Brandon says, what do I say to my parents who say they did their best, so I should be forgiving, even though their best ended up with me being emotionally neglected and ending up with PTSD?
What do you say to them? Brendan, the mere fact that you're asking that, first of all, I'm sorry for all that you've been through, and I mean that. And especially now having the PTSD and so forth, it's a horrible position to be in. So that you're aware, Brendan, the stuff that you have been through, you can heal from all of that. I don't just believe that, I know it for fact. You can, all right? And I've created all these tools, 1,000+ free videos, and the free podcast, and the do-it-yourself videos, and all the stuff on my podcast. We have a group, just so you guys know, we have a group on Facebook. It's the Badass Counseling Group. It's free. You can be in it. We're starting a Community Plus on our website, which is just another one where there's more. You can get more, and that one's paid subscription, but there's a free one. I've created all of this stuff. Rob puts in hours and hours and hours of work every week so to create this free opportunity. These are tools to help you heal. So you can heal from this, Brendan. Okay. So to your question, though, what do you say basically to parents who say, hey, get over it? Okay. The mere fact that you're asking that question, Brendan, is you are indicating to me that you still want something from them. And it's understandable that you do, and there's nothing wrong with wanting it. You're wanting them to atone, to acknowledge the pain they caused, and to presumably apologize for it, but at the very least to acknowledge it. And they're saying, fuck that shit. We're not acknowledging shit. Go fuck yourself, boy. You should forgive us. Well, if they said you should forgive us, they're simultaneously acknowledging, gee, we caused some pain, and they're simultaneously blowing it off. They're saying, anything that we did, you should forgive us and get on with it, and hey, we did our best. First of all, my response to that is no, you didn't. And the reason I say they didn't do their best is because you're still feeling unfulfilled. You're still wanting something that you haven't gotten. So even though they've said, hey, we did our best and you should forgive us, it's like you're saying you still feel unacknowledged, almost as if they're blowing off or minimizing the pain that they caused you, which says they haven't, in fact, done their best. They're doing what they got to do to get off the hook and move on forward with life. My question to you is, what really fundamentally are you wanting? Can you define that in your own journaling work? Can you define what you're wanting from them? And do you understand that in all likelihood, you're never going to get that from them? And that's the sucky part. You're wanting them to validate by confirming what they did to you. They are validating your worth and your importance and their relationship with you, that it matters so much to us that we are willing to own the pain that we have caused you. That's how important you are. And what they're saying is, no, we're so important to you and you're so important. You should just get over it. You don't matter enough for us to own shit. And that hurts the heart to hear. But their actions are clearly conveying that. Okay? And the question really is then, who does your dad or your mom in their individual relationships, who, if they hurt that person, would they go, would they bend over backwards to own their shit? Is it their own parents? Is it their best friend? Is it their boss? Do they treat their customers or their boss the way they treat you? Are there other people in their life that they would atone with and atone for their stuff, the pain that they cause? I'm betting that there are. And so what that means is they are capable of doing better. And what it means is they didn't do their best, because their best doesn't just stop at age 18. I ask clients all the time, which is worse, what your parents did to you back then or the fact that they haven't atoned for it since? And for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, it's they haven't atoned for it since. See, parenting doesn't stop. It's just like a relationship doesn't stop. If I hurt Rob's feelings, it's incumbent upon me, because Rob is important to me, to apologize to Rob and vice versa. All right? That's a good relationship. And I fear losing that friendship, but I also respect him. So I am going to apologize. So they don't fear losing you, and they're attempting to leverage their power to basically say, we're not going to apologize. But if they would apologize in some other situation, it says they are capable of doing better, which means they're not doing their best. But the root problem here is that you are wanting something from them that they have no intention of giving. And what you are fundamentally having to grieve is the loss of that very thing you want from them. For them to love you enough to matter, that you matter enough to them, that they confirm your worth by owning the pain they caused, and they don't have any intention of doing it. You can put it in front of them. You can say, no, you didn't do your best because you haven't atoned. Truly atoned for the pain you caused. You're not seeing it. You're not wanting to understand it. And you can go to them and you can say those things. But in all likelihood, they're still going to deny it. So that means you have to flesh out your pain and your anger and your rage and your sadness and grieve the loss of this thing that you wanted. And by doing that, you are confirming your own worth. And in the end, that's what you're going to have to do, because they're not going to confirm your worth. Rob, follow up?
Brandon says, thank you so much, Sven. Sent a big red heart.
Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate that. All right. I have enough time for one more question, then we're going to call it a night. Right. On Facebook. How do you keep childhood trauma from defining you after you do the work to heal? I'm open about my past, and I find it's hard for others to understand that it doesn't define me. If you're asking the question, how do you keep childhood trauma from defining you even after you do the work to heal? You haven't done the work to heal if you're still concerned about it defining you. And I know that may sound like bullshit, and I know you may want to say, fuck you, I've done the work to heal. But when we've truly gone into the belly of the beast, into the heart of the matter of healing, not just flushing out all the pain, but going down, drilling down to the root core beliefs you were taught about yourself, which is what my book is about. There's a hole in my love cup. It just doesn't define you. You transform into who you authentically are. And the notion that my childhood trauma, that I'm still telling those stories, it doesn't really happen. You have no need to tell the story. And what you follow up with is, I'm open about my past, and I find it's hard for others to understand that it doesn't define me. Why are you so wanting to convince other people that it doesn't define you? First of all. Second of all, why are you... There's nothing wrong with telling people about your past. So I'm not trying to shame you about that or anything like that. I'm just saying, why the need to share it? Why do you desire to share it? What's there? And there's nothing wrong with it. You can do it if you want, but it's almost is like you're wanting them to have a different response. You're still wanting something from other people. What precisely is it you want? Because you're clearly frustrated. It's like, they still think it defines me. It's like you're wanting them to have a different response, but they're not. They're having this response. And that's okay. They can have whatever response they want, and it's okay that you feel this way. You can feel however you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's almost like you're frustrated that people aren't giving you the response you want. And it's almost like you're wanting them to say, you're right, your past doesn't define you. But in a way, the fact that you keep talking about it says that it is defining you still. What I would ask if we were in counseling together is, what part of your past do you think isn't defining you anymore? And I'd also, which is a weird question to ask, but I'd want to know, because that's the thing you're probably fighting against most. But also I'd want to ask, why is it such a big deal how others respond? What are you still wanting from them? And you can dive into that in your journaling on your own time. I applaud you for the work you've done. And I mean that very sincerely. But I'm betting there's more work down there, because the truth is, we don't need to tell the story anymore when we've finally done all of the deeper healing work. I'm willing to bet that there's some deeper belief inside of you that you haven't unearthed yet that is still there. But the truth is, I could be totally fucking wrong. That's just kind of my hunch on that one. Rob?
I just have for one thing, L says, thank you so much, Sven. You're a gift to humanity.
Well, that's a bit.
There's that. But then there's this wonderful question that I totally identify with. And this is from Jennifer, who says, why do I hear a song on the radio and start to cry out of nowhere?
Well, Rob, why don't you take a stab at it first? What do you want to say?
I had always, certain songs trigger certain memories that make me feel very emotional. And it happens to me fairly often. And, I sometimes try to play songs on the guitar, and sometimes I actually feel myself getting a little choked up when I'm doing that.
And and talk to me, is it a bad choked up, a good choked up?
No,
what is it?
It's a wonderful, warm, nostalgic feeling. It's memories of happy things, or, you get lines like you start to feel old, okay? And sometimes it's simply that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been aware of the time going by, says Jackson Brown. Mm-hmm. It has an effect on you. And I love that. That's what we make music for.
Yeah, to elicit that response. And I love, and what was the person's name who said that?
That was Jennifer Gray on YouTube.
Jennifer, what I like about that is that you are feeling. So many folks keep their feelings locked down for so long. And maybe your response is different from Rob's. Maybe you have kept it down for so long, but the one thing that has the power to let it squirt out of you is a good song, okay? Or maybe for some people it's something in a movie or on TV, or some people it's time with their animals or out in nature that those feelings come through. But to be a feeling human being again, boy, that's to be alive. My girlfriend, we will, no lie, be walking down the street and we will see, let's say, a dead butterfly. And I am not exaggerating. This has literally happened. We were up in Concord, New Hampshire this weekend visiting for fun because I had never been to the capital city of New Hampshire. And it's a beautiful state. Oh my God, what a beautiful little city. And there was literally a dead butterfly on the sidewalk, and she stopped, and we had a moment of silence and basically a little mini funeral, no lie, for the butterfly. And can I tell you something? I love that so much about my girlfriend. I just love that she feels life. And this is a woman who has had massive success, built a massively successful company in New York City in the garment industry. And I have profound respect for her as a human being, but she has this very soft, sensitive side. And also, here's the other thing. One of the things that people often find is that one experience can prime the pump for another experience. In other words, a song or a movie can give me permission to cry, and what I find, if I allow myself to continue to cry, or it can allow me to feel anger, or whatever the feeling is, it can allow up certain feelings that then are sort of pulling in the feelings I have about the bigger issue in my life. So if I'm struggling, let's say, with a lover who left me, but I generally keep my feelings down because I'm a tough guy, or I'm a tough broad, but then I hear that song that, from when I was a teenager, and maybe it was when I was young, I never needed anyone, whatever. It was that Bread, whoever sang that song, or whatever the fucking song is. And whatever the song is. And
Eric Carmen, All By Myself.
All By Myself, that's it. The point is, that song gives me, the feelings start to come out, and then it sort of gives me permission. It primes the pump, and I find myself crying about the loss of the person that just left me. So sometimes it can prime the pump, but if it's a situation where you have a lot of feelings inside of you that you've kept stuff down for a long time, and they only come out when you're hearing a song, use that as an opportunity to get out more feelings and keep listening to that song and other songs because you've got more in you that needs to come out. If it's more like, as Rob says, it's the passing of time, that it just brings up, there's a beautiful sort of wistfulness about the past and the remembering. And that's one of the sort of grotesque yet beautiful parts of aging is seeing the turning and passing of time with each autumn as the leaves fall again, and seeing another winter coming, and seeing perhaps another spring coming, that time is passing. And it's hard, and our own mortality awaits each one of us, and we're grieving the loss of life, even as we're living it, and that's beautiful too. And this is reminding us of what was. I mean, we think about, Rob, do you think about, I know you do, but I think about, God damn, I look at these people nowadays, and I realize that guy's 40 years old. And it's like, I was 40 almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Or man, the 70s, growing up in the 70s, it's like, it was fucking awesome. But that was a fight. That was 50 years ago, Rob.
Yeah, try growing up in the 50s.
Man. But there's so many beautiful things.
That next line of Jackson Browne is, they say in the end, it's the blink of an eye.
In the end, it's the blink of an eye. And it just goes faster. And it really is the blink of an eye, man, And then when your next favorite rock star dies, or your next favorite movie actor or TV actress dies, and it's just like, wow, man, wow. So yes, I encourage the tears. I love people who feel, and I mean, man, that's what it is to be alive. Wouldn't you agree, Rob?
Very poetic of you, Sven. I think what you're saying is, across my dreams with nets of wonder, I chase the bright, elusive butterfly of love.
Who's saying that?
Bob Lind, I think.
Who's Bob Lind?
It's a one-hit wonder from the 60s.
Love it. I love it. On that note, I can't top Bob Lind from the 60s.
I hope I was right about that artist, but I'm not sure.
Well, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and we know that you have editing power before this goes on the air, so you're going to be fucking looking that shit up. Yeah. So everyone tuning in around the world, whether you're tuning in from the 906 or the Mohawk Valley or Perth, Australia, Perham, Minnesota, it's so good to have you here. We've really enjoyed it. Skol Vikings.
Yes, it was Bob Lind. I just looked it up.
Rob, you are not aging as quickly as some of us. I love you, brother, and I love all of you badasses that follow us. Please check out the Badass Counseling website and the book. It's a life changer. There's a hole in my love cup. We've got 1,000+ free videos. We've got 200+ past episodes of the Badass Counseling Show on Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, all mastered by Rob the Master. All sorts of opportunities. We've got the Badass Counseling group on Facebook. So many opportunities to heal. Do the work. Have the courage to go inside yourself, folks, and do the work. Love you much. On behalf of my team here, Rob the Rocket and KC in the booth, have a kick-ass motherfucking day, man.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.